Okay, let's unpack this today. I mean, we all think we know him, right?
Oh, absolutely.
You scroll through your feed, and there he is, the internet's boyfriend.
Right, the sad Keanu meme.
Exactly. Eating a sandwich all alone on a park bench. Or, you see those videos of him giving up his seat on the subway. Just the kindest guy.
But then you flip the channel.
Yeah, and he is the deadliest assassin in the world, taking out an entire nightclub with a single pencil. Or stopping bullets in midair with his mind.
It's a really fascinating duality, isn't it? You have this public image of the kindest man in Hollywood, this very gentle, almost monastic soul.
Yeah.
Contrasted so sharply with the on-screen persona of the inevitable devil's advocate, or the breathtaking action hero.
It's what I kind of call the Keanu paradox.
The Keanu paradox, I like that.
Because how can one man be funny Ted from San Dimas and a gritty action icon and this deeply introverted tragedy-struck figure all at the exact same time? It feels like we are looking at three entirely different people.
And that is precisely the mission of this deep dive today. We aren't just reading down his IMDb page for you.
No, definitely not.
We are looking at a really comprehensive biographical account, one that covers his life from the very beginning up through the release of The Matrix.
Which is such a wild era.
It is, because we need to uncover the sacrifices, the specific physical injuries, and there are a lot of them.
So many injuries.
The family trauma, and the immense professional risks that actually shape Reeves into the star we know today. We want to move you beyond the memes to the actual man himself.
Right, so let's get into it. Where does the story of Hollywood's most enigmatic star actually begin? Because despite that whole surfer dude vibe, it was not California.
No, it was far from the Pacific Coast Highway. Keanu Charles Reeves was born on September 10, 1964 in Beirut, Lebanon.
Beirut. That is already such a massive curveball to what you expect.
It really sets the stage for a life that completely refuses to be pinned down to one geography. And his heritage is just as eclectic.
Right, his parents.
Yeah. His father, Samuel Reeves, was Hawaiian and Portuguese, and his mother, Patricia Bond, was English and Irish.
Okay.
So that specific genetic mix is where he gets that distinctive, almost ageless look that directors absolutely love.
And the name Keanu. I mean, we are so used to it now. It is literally a household name. You say Keanu and nobody asks Keanu who.
Exactly.
But back then, in the mid-60s, that must have been incredibly unique. What does the name actually mean?
It's from the Hawaiian language.
Yeah.
It translates to cool breeze over the mountains.
Cool breeze over the mountains. That is remarkably fitting. He always has that totally chill, unbothered energy.
It sounds peaceful. Almost prophetic, really. But the reality of his early childhood was anything but a cool breeze.
Yeah, let's get into that.
Because if we really want to understand Keanu Reeves, we have to start with the first major fracture in his life, the father figure void.
Right. His father, Samuel. From what I've read in the sources, this isn't just a simple story of a dad working too many late nights or a standard divorce. This was really messy.
Messy is putting it lightly. Samuel Reeves was a geologist by trade, but his life was incredibly chaotic. He had no higher education.
None at all.
No. In fact, he earned his high school diploma while he was imprisoned in Hawaii.
Imprisoned? Okay, let's pause right there. What are we talking about here?
He was charged with selling heroin at the airport.
Wow. That is heavy. Selling heroin at an airport, that paints a picture of someone who is deeply troubled or maybe just desperate.
It really does. And over time, Samuel didn't just sell substances. He started using them heavily himself.
Oh, man.
So the instability in the home was constant. And when Keanu was just 3 years old, Samuel abandoned the family completely.
3 years old. That is the age where you barely have conscious memories, but those feelings of abandonment really stick with you.
They absolutely do.
Did he ever see him again after that?
He did.
Yeah.
But the encounter might have actually been worse than the complete absence. Keanu's last meeting with his father was on the island of Kauai when he was 13 years old.
Okay, a young teenager.
Yeah, but listen to how Keanu describes it in the biography.
Yeah.
He said that to him, his father was a complete stranger.
That is just heartbreaking.
It is. After that meeting at 13, he completely stopped communicating with him for many years.
Yeah.
It wasn't a reunion at all. It was just a confirmation of the loss.
So psychologically speaking, how does that shape a kid? You're 13, you meet your dad, and he's just some guy you don't even know.
It leaves a massive mark. Expert analysis of his life often points directly to this specific void.
Makes sense.
Keanu admitted later, you feel it especially acutely when you start to grow up and you really need a man's advice.
Yeah.
He missed that guidance. He missed having a roadmap for how to be a man in the world.
Which explains so much about his later career if you look at it. He really seems to seek out these intense mentor figures, whether it's the directors he works with or older actors on set.
Precisely.
He is looking for the advice he never got at home.
Exactly. But without a dad, the family unit became very tight, but also very mobile. It was just Keanu, his mom, Patricia, and his sister, Kim. And this leads us to the next really defining trait of his youth, the nomad lifestyle.
Because his mother, Patricia, wasn't exactly a stay-at-home mom baking cookies in the suburbs, right?
Far from it. She was a force of nature. She started out as a showgirl and then became a very successful costume designer.
Oh, wow.
We are talking about someone who created images for massive rock stars. She worked with Dolly Parton. She worked with David Bowie.
No way, David Bowie. So young Keanu is just hanging out in the living room while Ziggy Stardust is getting fitted for a costume.
Essentially, yes. He was growing up in this absolute whirlwind of creative, high-octane energy.
That sounds amazing, but also exhausting.
It was, because the geography was so chaotic. After the breakup with Samuel in Lebanon, Patricia moved the family to Sydney, Australia.
Why'd it jump?
She was working as an assistant organizer of performances out there. But the money was really tight. Life in Australia was expensive. And the source mentions she was changing men one by one.
That specific phrasing, changing men, it implies a lot of instability for a kid. New boyfriends and new potential father figures just walking in and out of the house.
Exactly. It's incredibly hard for a child to form solid attachments when the adults in the room keep rotating like that.
And then they moved again, right?
Yes, the location changed yet again. From the sunny beaches of Sydney, they moved to New York City.
Talk about absolute culture shock. You go from Australia to 1970s New York. That is an entirely different planet.
It was incredibly stressful for Keanu and Kim. They were just little kids. They had just gotten used to the Australian accent and the whole vibe there.
Right.
And suddenly they just dropped straight into the grit and the noise of New York. But New York is actually where a very important seed was planted.
The acting seed.
Yes. In New York, Patricia got a job working in theater. And for the very first time, 6-year-old Keanu was hanging around backstage.
Okay.
He actually describes the theater as a home and a magical process.
I really love that sentiment. The theater was home. When you don't have a physical house that stays in one place and your family structure is totally fluid, the stage becomes your constant. It is the one place where the rules are actually written down in a script.
That is a brilliant insight. It offered him structure, but the moving wasn't quite done yet.
Of course not.
When Keanu was 6, his mother married a Broadway director named Paul Aaron, and the family moved again, this time up to Toronto.
And Toronto is the place he finally ends up calling home, right? Hospitable Canada, as he likes to call it.
Yes, that really became his base. But even though he was finally settled in one city, his academic life was a total disaster.
Why is that? Was he just checking out emotionally because of all the moving around?
It was a lot more than just that.
Yeah.
Both Keanu and his sister Kim were diagnosed with dyslexia.
Oh, man. And we have to remember, for you listening, this is the 70s and early 80s. Schools were not exactly equipped with robust support systems for neurodivergent kids back then.
Not at all. It was rough. It resulted in poor school performance and ridicule from his peers. And even massive bias from his teachers, who just thought he was slow or lazy.
That is so unfair.
Keanu naturally became very withdrawn and insecure. He actually attended 4 different high schools in just a few short years.
4 high schools. That is a teenager's nightmare. You are always the new kid, and you are always the kid who struggles to read out loud in front of the class.
It led to a lot of acting out on his part. He even attended a very prestigious school of performing arts where you would think he would fit right in.
Right, that sounds perfect for him.
But he was expelled.
Expelled. The guy who is literally known as the nicest guy in Hollywood got kicked out of high school. What did he actually do?
The official reason on paper was bad behavior and conflicts with his teachers. He admitted later, he said, "I was just a little too rambunctious and shot my mouth off once too often."
Wow.
He really hated the authority. He actually never received his high school diploma, what they call a certificate of maturity.
So school is a complete wash. He is dyslexic, he is angry, and he is moving around constantly. But clearly he wasn't just sitting around his room doing nothing.
No, not at all.
This is where that Keanu paradox starts to really show up again.
It really is. Because while he was failing miserably in the classroom, he was actually excelling in 2 very specific and very different areas. First was chess.
Chess.
Yes, chess. He played at a surprisingly decent level. He would actually challenge adults to games and charge them $1 per game.
That is the most Keanu hustle I have ever heard. I'll play you for $1.
Yeah.
It shows he had real patience and a mind for strategy, even if he couldn't read the standard textbooks.
Exactly. It shows a different kind of intelligence. And the second area was hockey. In Canada, hockey is basically a religion.
Right.
And Keanu was a total devotee. His teammates actually nicknamed him the Wall.
The Wall, because he was a goalie, right?
Yes, he was a first-class goalkeeper. And if you think about that specific position, the goalie stands completely alone. You are the last line of defense. You have to be hyper-focused under intense pressure. It suits his personality perfectly.
It totally does. It is solitary but essential to the team. So, was there an alternate universe where Keanu Reeves became a pro hockey player instead of Neo?
There absolutely was. He genuinely dreamed of playing for the Canadian Olympic team. But at age 14, life threw another massive curveball at him. A very serious injury ended his hockey dreams permanently.
Just like that.
Just like that. The doctors basically gave him a life sentence. You can no longer play this sport.
That is such a pivotal moment for a teenager. The sports door slams completely shut. School is already a disaster. What do you even have left at that point?
You had the thing that your stepfather introduced you to. Paul Aaron, the Broadway director.
Oh, yeah, the theater.
Exactly. Even though Paul and Patricia divorced pretty quickly, Paul actually stayed in Keanu's life. He became that bridge for him.
So the injury really forces the pivot into acting.
It forces the pivot entirely. Keanu moved out of the house very young. He was hustling hard just to make ends meet. He was working 3 jobs simultaneously.
What was he doing?
Sharpening ice skates at the local arena, cutting bushes in public parks, and cooking pasta in an Italian restaurant.
Just grinding.
But Paul Aaron stepped in and played a crucial role. He helped Keanu get a green card to move to Los Angeles and introduced him to a manager named Erwin Stoff.
And this leads right into one of my absolute favorite stories in his entire biography, the arrival in Hollywood and the great name crisis.
Oh, this is an absolute classic.
So he finally gets to LA. It is the early 80s. His new manager, Erwin Stoff, looks at this kid and hears the name Keanu Reeves. And he thinks, what exactly?
He thinks it's a total disaster. He thinks the name is way too exotic.
Too exotic.
He was completely convinced that American audiences wouldn't be able to pronounce it or they would just be confused by it.
Yeah.
He sat Keanu down and told him, you need a stage name.
And Keanu, being the sort of punk rock, anti-establishment kid he was, deep down didn't just pick John Smith or something normal. What did he actually suggest?
Chuck Spadina.
Chuck Spadina. I genuinely cannot get over that. Just imagine the trailers. Coming this summer, Chuck Spadina is the one.
It changes the entire texture of cinema history if you think about it. And I really think looking back on it, he was just trolling them.
Oh, he was absolutely trolling them.
He was testing their patience. He was essentially saying, you want a generic tough guy name. I will give you the most ridiculous used car salesman name I could possibly think of.
Did he have any backups?
Oh, yeah. He also suggested Templeton Page Taylor.
Templeton Page Taylor. That sounds like a wealth management law firm.
It really does.
Yeah.
He just kept suggesting these absurd names until the manager finally just exhausted himself and gave up. He said, fine, just keep Keanu.
Thank goodness for that. Chuck Spadina does not dodge bullets in slow motion, so he keeps his real name and he starts the Hollywood grind.
He does. And he was not an overnight success by any means, but he worked steadily. He did commercials.
It's like what?
Coca-Cola in 1984. Kellogg's Corn Flakes. He was even a TV correspondent for a youth show called Going Great.
Oh, wow.
And he started getting some real traction in films. He was in Youngblood, where he actually played a hockey goalie, utilizing his real-life skills.
That worked out well.
And then River's Edge.
River's Edge was a pretty big deal, critically right. It was not just a silly popcorn movie.
No, it was incredibly dark. He played a teenager dealing with a murder inside his friend group. The role was critically acclaimed. It showed the industry he had real depth.
Right.
It showed he wasn't just a pretty face. But then 1989 happened.
The year that changed literally everything for him. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
A massive cultural phenomenon, and the behind-the-scenes story on this is just great. The script was written in only 4 days in local coffee shops. It was a very scrappy production.
And originally the casting was entirely backward, wasn't it?
Complete backward.
Yeah.
Keanu originally auditioned for the role of Bill, and Alex Winter auditioned for Ted.
That is so incredibly hard to picture now.
The creators looked at their audition tapes and just decided to swap them. They felt the energies worked much bigger reversed.
Makes total sense.
And another really fun production detail for you, the famous time machine. In the original script, it was actually supposed to be a Chevy van.
A Chevy van, that feels a little creepy for two teenagers to be driving through time in.
Well, the producers were actually terrified. It looked way too much like the DeLorean from Back to the Future, which had just come out.
Oh, okay.
They didn't want to get sued, so they changed it to a phone booth at the last minute.
Conveniently ignoring the fact that Doctor Who exists?
Completely ignoring Doctor Who. But worked beautifully. The movie was a massive runaway hit, but it became a real double-edged sword for Keanu.
The dreaded Ted curse.
Exactly. The movie completely launched his mainstream career, but it trapped him in a box. Critics, the press, the general public, they all just assumed Keanu actually was the character Ted.
Which is so unfair.
They genuinely thought he was this empty-headed surfer dude who just said, whoa, all day long.
Which is deeply ironic because, as we know now, he is this incredibly deep, thoughtful guy who plays competitive chess and reads Shakespeare in his spare time.
It really is. But he was genuinely afraid he would be remembered only as Ted for the rest of his life. It heavily influenced how casting directors and people viewed his acting capabilities for years. They simply couldn't see past the dude archetype.
So trying to actively break out of that mold, he starts taking some big risks, indie risks.
Yes.
He does I Love You to Death and Tune In Tomorrow. And this leads us to a really profoundly significant relationship in his life. River Phoenix.
Yes. This is really the emotional core of his early Hollywood years.
Yeah.
They met while filming I Love You to Death.
Yeah.
And they bonded almost instantly.
Over what?
They both had these very unconventional, very difficult childhoods. River's parents were poor hippies who operated like missionaries in a cult.
Right, the children of God.
Exactly. And Keanu had his nomadic, fatherless upbringing. They immediately recognized the outsider in each other.
And they shared a real, genuine dream of acting as high art, not just as a vehicle for fame and money.
Exactly. River got really interested in Keanu's motorcycles. And Keanu got swept up in River's world, which included music and, unfortunately, the very dark drug culture of early 90s LA.
And this intense friendship leads straight into My Own Private Idaho in 1991. This is a Gus Van Sant movie.
Right.
It's about street hustlers. It is gritty and raw. It is incredibly risky for two rising teen idols to take on.
Risky is an understatement. Gus Van Sant didn't even think he could get their agents to show the script to their clients. The pay was incredibly low, and the subject matter was highly controversial for the time. Prostitution, narcolepsy, homelessness.
But Keanu was absolutely committed.
Fully committed. He was actually up in Toronto at the time.
Yeah.
He hopped on his Norton Commando motorcycle and drove thousands of miles all the way down to Florida.
Just to hand-deliver the script.
Yes, to hand-deliver the script to River Phoenix directly to bypass the agents.
He drove a motorcycle from Toronto to Florida. That is a massive quest. That is not just a daily commute.
It is a massive testament to his belief in the project and his deep love for River. He successfully convinced River to take the role.
Wow.
And the filming process itself was incredibly intense. The cast actually lived inside Van Sant's house. It turned into a total commune. Constant jam sessions, alcohol, and a lot of drugs.
It sounds like the lines between the movie and reality were getting very dangerously blurred.
They were. Expert analysis of this period suggests that blurring was part of their method acting, but it was very dangerous. River Phoenix actually wrote the most famous campfire scene in that movie himself. You know the one?
The one where he confesses his unrequited love to Keanu's character.
Yes. River completely rewrote that scene to express the nuanced difference between love and sex. It was so raw and it was very real.
And then the ultimate tragedy strikes. October 31st, 1993. The Viper Room.
River Phoenix dies of a severe drug overdose right on the sidewalk outside the club.
How did Keanu react to that? I mean, this is his absolute best friend in the world.
He was devastated, completely broken. He described it as being beyond sad. He said he sobbed uncontrollably for hours.
That is so awful.
He felt the immediate loss of his family and support system. Remember, Keanu was a very lonely guy, by nature somewhat introverted. River was his anchor in Hollywood. Losing him was like losing the other half of himself.
And looking at his career right after that, it really feels like he threw himself entirely into work just to cope with the pain.
He did. He actually took a role in a film called Even Cowgirls Get the Blues shortly after, largely just to reminisce about the time he spent filming My Own Private Idaho with River. He was really chasing a ghost.
So he is carrying this massive unresolved grief, but his career is shifting gears completely. He is moving directly into the action genre. Point Break, 1991.
I am an FBI agent.
It is so iconic. But getting to that point wasn't a straight line. Keanu wasn't the studio's first choice for a rugged action star at all.
No. Not remotely.
Yeah.
Patrick Swayze was the massive star at the time. Swayze read the script and convinced the producers that he should play Bodhi, the surfer guru villain.
Right.
That left the role of Johnny Utah, the rookie FBI agent, open. And they decided to take a huge gamble on Keanu.
And none of them actually knew how to surf right, which is crazy for a movie about surfing.
Zero surfing ability among the leads. Keanu, Swayze, Lori Petty. They all had to go out to Hawaii for 2 solid months of intense daily lessons.
Wow.
And this is where we see Keanu's slightly addictive personality channel into something very healthy. He completely fell in love with the ocean. Surfing became a lifelong passion for him.
I always love it when the physical work for a role becomes a real-life passion. But there is a fun fact check on Point Break from the sources that I found hilarious, the famous skydiving scene.
Oh, yes. The Mythbusters episode.
Yes.
So you know the scene? Keanu jumps out of the moving plane without a parachute just to catch Swayze in midair.
And they have this full-blown dramatic argument while literally falling toward the...
All right. Well, Mythbusters actually tested this. They proved that physically, yes, if you streamline your body perfectly, you can catch someone in free fall who jumped before you.
Okay, so the physics work.
However, the duration is totally, completely unrealistic. In the movie, they talk and fight for about 90 seconds to 2 minutes. In reality, from that specific altitude, they would have hit the ground dead in 90 seconds.
Yeah, gravity really does not wait for your dramatic dialogue to finish.
It definitely does not.
Right.
But Point Break proved to the studios that Keanu could carry a gun and look really cool doing it. And that perfectly set the stage for Speed in 1994.
Now, this is super interesting because Keanu initially said flat out no to Speed.
He did.
Yeah.
He read the original script and thought this is literally just Die Hard on a bus. He thought it was totally derivative.
I mean, he has a point. The premise is very Die Hard, so what changed his mind?
Joss Whedon.
Wait, Joss Whedon, the creator of Buffy.
The very same.
Yeah.
The studio brought Whedon in to do an uncredited rewrite of the entire script. He radically changed the character of Jack Traven. In the original draft, Jack was a total maverick cop who broke all the rules and was kind of an arrogant jerk. Whedon made him polite. He made him a guy who didn't necessarily want to be an action hero. He just genuinely wanted to save innocent people.
He made him Keanu, basically.
Exactly. That core kindness really appealed to Keanu. So he finally said yes.
And we absolutely have to talk about the on-screen chemistry with Sandra Bullock. It is the stuff of Hollywood legend.
It really is. Sandra Bullock admitted years later to Ellen DeGeneres that she was madly in love with Keanu during the entire filming process.
Really?
She said it was incredibly hard for her to be serious in scenes because he would look at her and she would just start to giggle.
And what about Keanu? Did he know?
He later claimed the feeling was completely mutual. He had a massive crush on her too.
No way.
But, and this is very classically Keanu, they kept it strictly professional. They never crossed the line. They never dated.
That is the ultimate what-if romance of the 90s. But speaking of Speed, there is a detail about the production that always makes me laugh. The great haircut scare.
Oh, yes, the haircut. So Keanu decides internally that a serious SWAT cop would absolutely not have long, floppy surfer hair.
Right. It's a tactical hazard.
So he goes and buzzes it all off. A super short military crew cut. 20th Century Fox executives saw it, and they were absolutely terrified.
Terrified of a simple haircut.
They genuinely thought audiences wouldn't recognize him at all. They really believed the floppy Ted hair was his entire brand. They almost delayed the entire production because they thought the movie would flop if Keanu Reeves didn't have his signature hair.
That just shows how incredibly little the studio executives actually understood his appeal. But the movie obviously comes out, and it is a massive smash hit.
Huge.
Keanu is now officially A-list. He's making millions. And naturally, the studio immediately wants Speed 2.
And here's where we see his incredible professional integrity, or, total madness, depending on who you ask in Hollywood.
Yeah.
He flat out refused.
He turned down a guaranteed multi-million-dollar blockbuster sequel. Why?
He read the script. It was essentially Speed, but on a cruise ship. He literally just said boats aren't fast.
He is not wrong. Cruise ships are incredibly slow.
He just didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
He didn't feel the artistic drive for it. And he was completely right. Speed 2 flopped miserably at the box office and actually won a Golden Raspberry Award. He definitely dodged a bullet.
Literally and figuratively dodging bullets. And the strong sense of integrity shows up again a few years later with The Devil's Advocate.
Yes, he wanted to work with Al Pacino so badly. It was a dream for him. But the production simply couldn't afford Pacino's massive fee if they paid Keanu his standard leading man, quote.
So what did he do?
Keanu voluntarily took a huge multi-million-dollar pay cut just to free up the budget so they could afford to hire Pacino.
That is exceptionally rare in this industry.
Very rare. And the source actually notes that when Pacino finally found out what Keanu had done, he was so moved by the gesture, he donated that exact same amount of his own money to charity. It was a real showing of mutual respect.
That is a beautiful story. But look, we do have to be balanced here. It wasn't all massive wins and noble gestures. The mid-90s had some very rough patches for him. We have to talk about the accent.
Oh, the accent. Bram Stoker's Dracula, 1992.
I can literally hear it in my head right now. Carfax Abbey.
Francis Ford Coppola directed it. Winona Ryder was actually the one who heavily insisted that Keanu be cast in the role.
Oh, really?
But Coppola later admitted he realized way too late that he cast the completely wrong person for the role of Jonathan Harker.
Why was it so bad?
Keanu was totally exhausted from shooting other films back-to-back. He was burnt out, and on screen he just appeared detached and stiff.
And his attempt at a proper London accent?
It was not good. The critics absolutely savaged him for it. One particularly brutal review said he looked like he was constantly restraining himself from saying, "Whoa, dude," to Count Dracula.
Ouch. That really stings.
It does, but there is a very funny silver lining to Dracula that Keanu actually loves to talk about to this day.
You mean the wedding scene?
Yes. In the movie, his character marries Winona Ryder's character. Coppola wanted the scene to feel incredibly authentic, so he hired a real, actual Romanian priest.
Okay.
And that priest performed the full, actual, traditional marriage rite from start to finish.
So wait, are they legally married?
Winona Ryder genuinely thinks so. Coppola thinks so too. They firmly believe that Keanu and Winona might actually be legally married in the eyes of God because a real priest did the whole ceremony.
No way. That is incredible.
Keanu says he still regularly gets text messages from Winona that just say, "Hello, husband."
I absolutely love that they keep that running joke alive. But aside from Dracula, he did have some other major flops during this era.
Yeah.
Johnny Mnemonic.
Complete box office bomb.
Yeah.
Sony basically tried to take this weird, gritty, cyberpunk art house film and force it into being a summer blockbuster. And the tone was just a mess. It didn't work at all.
What about Chain Reaction?
That was filmed during a record-breaking cold winter in Chicago. Keanu looked visibly miserable on screen because he physically was miserable. And he actually got nominated for Worst Actor at the Golden Raspberries for that one.
And Much Ado About Nothing.
Nominated again for a Golden Raspberry for Worst Supporting Actor.
So let's look at the board here for a second. It is the late 90s. He is getting totally hammered by the critics. He is racking up Razzie nominations. People in the industry are starting to write him off.
Yeah.
They're thinking, okay, he had his lucky moment with Speed, but he is just a pretty face who really can't act.
And that is the exact specific moment when the script for The Matrix miraculously appears on his desk.
The big one. The role that defines him. But again, just like Point Break, he was not the studio's first choice.
Far from it. The role of Neo was offered to and turned down by the absolute biggest names in the entire world. Brad Pitt passed on it. Leonardo DiCaprio passed.
And Will Smith, right?
Yes, Will Smith passed.
The Fresh Prince as Neo. I genuinely cannot even begin to imagine what that movie would look like.
Will Smith has actually spoken very openly about this decision. He said he just didn't get the script. The pitch from the Wachowskis confused him.
That's fair. It was a wild concept.
He also said he didn't think he was mature enough as an actor yet to pull it off. He honestly thought he would have messed it up and turned it into a goofy comedy.
At least he is self-aware about it.
Very. So Keanu eventually gets the script. And completely unlike the others, he immediately deeply connected with the underlying philosophy. He was actually already reading heavy books on evolutionary psychology and simulation theory on his own time.
So he was uniquely prepared mentally.
He was entirely ready for this mentally.
But the physical preparation, this sounds like absolute medieval torture from what I read.
It was preparation straight from hell.
Yeah.
We really have to talk about the physical toll this took on him. During the early prep, Keanu suffered a severe spinal injury. A fully displaced cervical vertebrae.
In his neck.
Yes. He had to have a 2-level fusion in his cervical spine. Just to put that medical reality into perspective for you.
Please do.
The surgeons have to go in through the front of your throat, physically move your voice box aside, and permanently plate the neck bones together. You are incredibly fragile afterward. You are in immense agonizing pain.
And the studio just lets him fight. I always thought insurance companies basically ran Hollywood sets. How did they not shut the entire production down immediately?
They absolutely tried to shut it down.
Yeah.
But this is where Keanu's incredible stubbornness comes in. That old The Wall nickname from his hockey days really comes roaring back.
He fucked them on it.
He aggressively convinced the producers not to fire him and delay the movie. But the compromise meant he had to do his martial arts training for 4 solid months wearing a rigid medical neck brace.
Kung Fu training with a recently fused spine.
Yes. With Yuen Wu-ping, who is a totally legendary fight choreographer, Yuen actually had to completely redesign Dio's entire fighting style to accommodate a guy who literally physically could not turn his head or kick properly.
Why, that explains so much. His slightly stiff, upright posture in that first movie. It wasn't just a cool character choice to make Neo look stoic. It was a literal medical necessity.
Exactly. The Wachowskis actually had to completely reschedule all of his heavy fight scenes to the very end of the shooting schedule, just to give his neck a few extra months to heal.
And when they finally got around to filming those fights, it still wasn't easy for him.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Take the famous dojo fight with Morpheus. Lawrence Fishburne and Keanu rehearsed that sequence for a full month.
Right.
But because of Keanu's lingering neck injury, he deeply struggled with the kicking combos. There was one specific sequence with a triple kick. It took 21 takes to get it right.
21 takes of a triple kick with a bad neck.
He was in visible pain. He was making mistakes because of the fatigue, but he flat out refused to stop. He just kept resetting and going again.
And what about the brutal subway fight with Agent Smith at the end?
Absolutely no stuntmen were used for the close-ups. Keanu and Hugo Weaving did it all themselves. That single fight took 10 full days longer than they planned to shoot.
Wow.
By the end, both actors were completely exhausted, totally bruised, and physically battered.
And then there's the pod scene. When he first wakes up in the terrifying real world.
He actually shaved his entire body for that, eyebrows and all. He lost weight too, just to perfectly capture that sickly look of a newborn waking up in a vat of gel.
That is next level commitment to the art. And the payoff, well, we obviously know the payoff. March 31st, 1999.
A total global cultural phenomenon. Keanu himself was completely shocked by the reaction. He had absolutely no idea it would hit the culture that hard.
Right.
People were going to the theater, seeing it 10 times in a row. They were dressing up in leather trench coats and tiny sunglasses. It fundamentally changed how action movies were made forever.
It permanently solidified him as an absolute icon. But through all of this massive fame and all this money, the man himself remains this total enigma.
He really does. And this brings us to a closer character study of who he is off camera. He is famously known for his extreme generosity.
The stories are legendary.
He literally gave away millions of his own back-end earnings from the Matrix sequels directly to the special effects teams and the costume designers because he felt they were the real heroes of the movies.
And for years, despite making all this money, he didn't even own a house.
Right. He just lived in hotels. He lived out of a single suitcase at the Chateau Marmont for years. He just didn't see the point in accumulating massive amounts of stuff.
And he was playing bass in his grunge band Dogstar,
which he actually formed after randomly meeting a drummer in a local grocery store.
Just casually in a grocery store. Hey, nice melons, you play the drums.
That is basically exactly how it happened. And they seriously toured for almost 10 years. He wasn't doing it for fame. He just genuinely wanted to play loud music with his friends.
And finally, we definitely have to mention the motorcycles.
A massive, massive passion of his. And a highly dangerous one. He's had multiple terrible accidents.
What kind of injury?
Broken ribs. A completely ruptured spleen. He frequently talks about going on what he calls a demon ride.
What is a demon ride?
It is where he rides his motorcycle at top speed through the dark canyons with the headlights turned completely off.
That sounds absolutely suicidal.
Or perhaps deeply meditative for him. It is that core contrast again. The absolute stillness of his personality combined with the extreme speed. Maybe he just needs that close brush with extreme danger to actually feel fully present in his body.
Wow. So bringing this all together for you listening, we have a guy who was born in Beirut, abandoned by a heroin-dealing father, moved constantly across the world,
Right.
struggled deeply with dyslexia, dropped out of high school, worked as an ice skate sharpener, broke into Hollywood,
Got typecast as a total dummy.
lost his absolute best friend to drugs, endured massive, agonizing physical injuries, and still somehow became the highest paid actor on the Hollywood A-list.
It is fundamentally a story of pure resilience. He entirely overcame the bad actor label. He overcame immense, profound grief. He overcame literal physical pain that would stop most people in their tracks.
And he did all of it while staying, by all accounts, a genuinely decent human being. I mean, Francis Ford Coppola explicitly called him the nicest person you will ever meet.
And that is arguably the rarest thing in all of Hollywood. It is an industry entirely designed to crush sincerity and ego. And somehow, against all odds, he kept his intact.
So here's the big provocative question I really want to leave you with today. We look at his massive success, The Matrix, Speed, and later on the John Wick franchise.
Yeah.
Is Keanu Reeves' incredible career success entirely due to his raw, natural acting ability? Or is it actually his sheer fearless willingness to endure immense pain, both physical and emotional, for the sake of the art?
That is the ultimate question. Is it natural talent, or is it the rare capacity to suffer deeply and just keep moving forward? I honestly think the answer is written in all of his scars.
Definitely something to think about the next time you sit down and watch him dodge bullets. Thanks for diving in with us today.
See you next time.